State Senator Dan Hegeman has served District 12 since 2014. He'll step down from his state Senate seat this year due to term limits. He's our special guest tonight on Community Conversations with Charles Christian. Charles?
All right, great to see you here, Senator. Glad you're in the neighborhood.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you mentioned that's right. Usually this time of year you're campaigning, but you won't be. How does that feel?
Well, it's a welcome relief to be able to enjoy some of the fall activities and
that's good.
And view the parades from the sidelines, not being in the parade.
That's right. That's a new thing for
nice.
You too.
Yeah.
Now, you've just come off a special session there in Jeff City, and tell us about the results of that and what you took
Well, we're
from
still
that.
working in the special session.
That's right.
I get to go back next week to finish up some work on an agricultural tax credits bill, and so hopefully the House has passed that bill already, and the Senate passed a version of it, sent it to the House, but we'll be working on the House version, and we'll need to get that passed through the Senate committee that I chair, and then onto the floor, and hopefully we'll get that done early next week.
Good, and you got some good news today about the tax bill. Tell us about that, the income tax.
Yeah, the Senate income tax cut bill to the House, which they took up today and without any changes and adopted. So that piece of legislation will be going to the governor's desk for signature. That's why, big reason why the governor called it. You know, it's always a good. We've had some good opportunities in the state. The governor really managed our economy very well through the COVID situation. So we've got some resources right now, fund balances, and we're able to. It's always a good idea to be able to give some money back to the people if we have an opportunity.
There you go. And you feel like that's the biggest impact of this particular bill. It's going to, as you said, put money back in pockets. Explain that a little bit.
You bet. Yeah, it's going to do an income tax cut of our a continued. We've done a lot of cuts in the income tax. It's going to continue those cuts in the income tax. So when you file your taxes, you'll be getting you won't have to pay as much as you would have had in the past. And so that puts money in everybody's pocket who pays taxes.
Okay, all right. And now
income taxes.
That income taxes, yeah. And you mentioned you're from Cosby, of course.
I am.
This is kind of home for you this area.
Yeah. I grew up on a 6th-generation dairy farm there.
Wow, how about that? And what got you into? Now, this isn't this time in the Senate, of course, is term limiting out. But before that, you were in the House.
Yep, I was in the House from '91 through 2002. I had 11 years in the House, and when I went to college at the University of Missouri Columbia, I had the opportunity to engage in student government at the time.
Sure.
And my family's always been very engaged in our community, and really giving back to the community is really instrumental to and just integral to me. And so I thought if I had ever had a chance to serve my community by being a state representative, I would, and that happened in 1991, so I appreciate that people putting their faith in me. And I was pretty young, and I was pretty raw at the time.
Okay.
But they put their faith in me, and I've enjoyed the public service ever since.
Good. Now, you've seen a lot of changes in those 30 years, and how the things have shifted in regard to the whole state, but especially in regard to the thing you've spent the most time on, I think, is had to do with finances. Yeah. Talk about those changes that you've seen in regard to just the way the politics works in Jefferson City, and just economically how things have developed.
Yeah, so in the 90s I was in the House of Representatives. I'm a Republican, and the Republicans were in the minority that whole time. They didn't take control of the House until 2002. So when I came back to the Senate in 2014, the Republicans were in the majority, and so that was a change that I'd like to see. And I'm conservative, and I think most of Northwest Missouri, leans to the conservative side. In that we just want to take care of things. And government's there to help us out, but we don't need a lot of government and do things. And through the years, we've seen good times and bad times. I've really kind of been blessed. My time of service really haven't dealt with many of the downturns, and so I guess I've spaced those times out well enough.
That's probably good.
So we've had a good run here lately in my term in the Senate, the 8 years that I've been in here. Last 4 years being the appropriations chairman. Right. We dealt with the COVID situation. We kind of pulled back pretty hard there, but the governor has managed the economy well, and we've got resources that the state's doing very well. We did a lot for education this last year.
Sure.
We're very happy about that. Fully funded the foundation formula, and funded the what they call the transportation aspect as much as we possibly could in the state. And so happy to do that.
Good stuff. Well, now, I guess everybody's going to be asking you this, but technically you still have funds in the coffer, so to speak, and anyone who's in office who has that, there's always questions about, okay, what would it take for you to run for something else, and what would that something else be, possibly?
You know, we'd be looking at, because the only thing I could run for on a statewide level would be some of the statewide offices.
Okay.
You know, I didn't run this time. Some of the offices up next time, you know, will be the Attorney General, Secretary of State, State Treasurer's office,
Okay.
Governor. I'm not running for governor.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but you know, you always kind of hold out the potential and hope out there. There's some of those that might be fairly attractive to me, but there's a lot of things that go into factor in that. I mean, do you want to take that much time away from your family? You got to raise a lot of money. I'm not independently wealthy, so
sure.
I don't. Okay. I can't self-fund it, and so you'd have to rely. One of the good things you get in a statewide run, you'd get around the state and meet a lot of wonderful Missourians in the past.
Okay.
And that'd be wonderful. But there's a lot to go into that calculation.
I got you. Well, what are you getting to spend your real quickly? And lastly, what do you spend your time doing now?
You bet. You know,
besides going to that special
you know,
session?
the public service is still important to me. So I spend some time on the farm. And, you know, I farm with my brother and my son and son-in-law, and I like to say that I'm going to spend more time with that. And every time I say that, they grimace and frown, and they're not so happy. But you know, one of the things, public service is still important to me, so I'm just looking at some of the volunteer opportunities. I've joined our church council at Hope United Church of Christ out at Cosby, little country church out there, and then I've joined the Second Harvest Food Bank once again.
Very good.
I will continue my public service in those capacities.
Sounds good. Well, State Senator Dan Hegeman has been our guest today, and we appreciate his time. We appreciate you checking in on us. We'll have another guest next week for Community Conversation. We'll have more news after this.